Hello, YouTube! It's time for the next part of Guardians of Magic, and today I have a special guest with me. Introduce yourself.
Magavanen YouTube. Hello, everypony. This is Shire Folk, the author of the fic.
Yeah, he contacted me, and he actually wants to read this chapter with me. So, we haven't exactly worked out how we're going to do this. Are we going to, alternate paragraphs, or...
I'm not totally sure how we're going to do it. I thought in my head that you would read along, and you might end up asking me questions here or there. It's like, why did you do this? Or, is this foreshadowing or something? But going along, but then I might do a voice or two for one of the ponies, or... I don't know. I guess we'll just blunder our way through it for this first one.
That's how this kind of thing usually works. Okay. Chapter 6. Magic Rules. Trixie's horn glowed with a violet light while she lay in the bed she'd been placed in. Spoonful after spoonful of soup entered her mouth from the bowl she'd been brought, but the unicorn paid little attention to her. Her purple eyes were instead fixed on the object lying on the sheets across her barrel. The keyblade was about as long as her body was. Its guard was circular and made up of silver and cyan stars, and the blade's grip was a pale robin's egg blue. Shooting out from the hilt from a bouquet of red and gold blossoms was the blade. A silver core spiraled by green and copper threads like fireworks, and the key tip was a periwinkle five-pointed star like the one of the wand on her own cutie mark. Dangling from a silver chain at the base of the hilt rested a golden crescent moon. That actually sounds really cool.
Yeah, I took a little bit of time trying to figure out what her Keyblade was going to look like, because no one's done a Keyblade for Trixie, so I'm like, ooh, custom Keyblade time. I've made a few of these in my time. Let's see what I can do for Trixie.
I'm pretty sure every Kingdom Hearts fan has done that at some point.
Yeah. I've gotten loads of pictures from people going, oh, use these Keyblades for Twilight and for all of the others. Give all of them Keyblades. And I'm like, as far as I know, only Twilight gets one right now.
Twilight and Trixie, because giving the other characters Keyblades, giving all of them Keyblades, that would get kind of out of hand.
It would be a little out of hand, yeah, but it would also be a case of... Am I going to be giving every pony a Keyblade now? Is that the line that I'm going for? Does every Keyblades for everyone? Is that what's going on? No, I don't generally do that.
No, that sounds like a bit too Mary Sue.
It sounds more. It's not really Mary Sue-ish. It just sounds more childish and juvenile than Mary Sue.
Yeah, but just giving every character the ultimate weapon of good.
Yeah. It's a bit much. Yeah.
So this is the Keyblade I am bestowed, Trixie thought to herself, poring over every inch of it in great detail. She had refused to allow Sora or the other ponies she hadn't met leave without explaining to her exactly what this object was and what it could do. Flare. A fitting name, I suppose. That is a really fitting name for Trixie.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a little of its own flair about it. She nibbled a bit more on the bread before turning her attention towards a pile of hay fries and daffodils, feeling her stomach lessening in their hunger pains. The show pony sighed and smiled a little. I guess Trixie does owe her one, don't I? She asked no pony in particular, having been left alone to rest and recuperate. She levitated a hay fry towards her mouth and began consumption. Twilight Sparkle certainly was some pony she didn't quite have a grasp on yet. She had no reason to assist Trixie when she had been in trouble against the Heartless earlier. Even if she did have a couple of reasons to go out of her way not to help, she still did. Now Trixie was in the care of Canterlot Castle's physicians, and being fed better fare than she had eaten for the majority of the last month. Although she had undoubtedly developed a certain taste for pine cones. Probably one of my favorite things that the fandom has spawned, Trixie and the pine cones.
It's a good one. I just had to put it in. I couldn't not put it in. So.
It's just so funny and random.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a strange thing for her when they leave Equestria.
So this is actually going to continue outside of Equestria. I actually really want to see that.
Yes, they have to continue outside of Equestria because Sora and the others need to find all of the other Guardians of Magic, and there's only 2 in Equestria, so they need to go and find the others. Because they've already got Zelda, and they already have Twilight and Trixie now, so they need to find the other 3.
Yeah. Okay. She began to levitate another hay fry to her mouth, but paused and looked at it with unfocused eyes. I owe almost everything to Twilight Sparkle, don't I? My life, a chance to make amends, the care from the doctors here at the castle, and good standing with the princess, but... She trailed off, and bit the hay fry with her teeth. Chewing the fry was a mechanical action, and she lowered her eyes. Trixie swallowed, purple eyes now resting upon the keyblade on her bed.
Oh, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. I'm needed for something else for a little bit, like maybe 15 minutes or so. So
yeah, I can pause the recording.
Okay, I'll be back soonish.
Okay.
Okay. You remember where you are?
Yes, I remember where I am. Okay. This is one thing I don't owe Twilight Sparkle for, she said, a surge of her old pride entering her voice. This keyblade. And this business with being a guardian of magic. This could be the change in fortune I was looking for. No more will I have to perform odd jobs hardly worthy of a pony of my talents. Trixie will train hard, and learn to use this weapon to the best of her ability.
To beyond
the Heartless,
her ability.
To beyond the best of her ability. The Heartless, the dreaded Ursa Major, and even the worst of Fall's birthday parties will not pose a challenge to the new and improved, great and powerful Trixie. Father always did say that you are destined for greatness, Trixie. I love that little bit about the Falls birthday parties.
Mm-hmm.
She stopped for a moment, hearing herself talk, and giggled. Look at myself, talking in third person when no ponies around. Act the part long enough and it becomes part of you, I suppose. She laughed a little more and continued consuming those delicious hay fries that had been brought up for her. You do birthday parties? A voice asked excitedly. Trixie turned her head. The young light blue filly that had been with the elements and the princesses was slowly entering the hospital room, and had clearly heard her declaration. Yes, she told the filly, the great and powerful Trixie does perform her magic tricks for birthday parties. No fool has ever been disappointed by Trixie's performances. Why do you do that? She asked, cocking her head to the...
Your voice is coming in a bit staggered, like it's a bit choppy.
It's probably a Skype thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Why do you do that? She asked, cocking her head to the side while her hooves clip-clopped on the stone. Why does Trixie do what, little Ray? That, she answered, almost a giggle in her voice. Talking like that, calling yourself by your name instead of just saying I. It'd be a lot faster if you just said that instead. Sorry. Trixie chuckled slightly, humored by Sora's younger sister. It's all part of Trixie's act. Specifically, my persona as the great and powerful Trixie. All of the very best and most talented show ponies have their own signatures to ensure that the ponies who see their shows remember them. Mostly ability, part bravado. But, as Trixie has learned, if the pony places reputation and bravado above their ability, they are liable to fall. She gave Ray a serious look. Remember that well, young filly. Boasting a little is nothing to be ashamed of and is something all ponies do. But boast too much and your perfect life will rip at the seams and leave you forgotten as dust in the wind. Earning your place in the world is difficult, and regaining it is even harder. However... She paused and glanced at Flare as she held it up in her telekinetic grasp. This should make things a little easier. I wouldn't be so sure of that, Ray said, pointing a hoof at the weapon floating in the air. Sora says that being a Keyblade wielder is hard and dangerous, and I've been going with him to different places long enough now to know that he's right. Fighting evil is hard and dangerous. The filly dropped her head slightly and closed her eyes. In front of her materialized the very item that was depicted by the cutie mark on her flank, and it did not take much of Trixie's considerable intelligence to understand that it too was a Keyblade. The sword's guard looked like an empty triangle made of silver feathers, and the grip was white gold. The length of the blade was a background of black with pinprick stars, with small silver and brass. Bleh. This happens when my throat starts to get dry. Fan tends to do that.
Do you need to go get a drink?
Nah, I got one before. My throat was, dry to the bone before you had to go cut down the juniper bushes.
Yeah.
That's why he left before. For,
a half an hour.
20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes preceded by about 20 more minutes of him talking about Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, after Pony, I play D&D, in case you don't know. So, if you're listening to this and you think that it's possible, well, if you already know about D&D, then you probably already knew about Coltinster being Elminster. But, it's possible that D&D may show up in the future, actually. But, just saying.
Okay.
Dang it, I'm gonna go get a drink now. Now I'm thirsty.
Okay, then. Okay, so
You were in the middle of describing her Keyblade, and I don't know if you finished it while I was away.
nah, I didn't. I went to get another drink myself.
Okay.
Okay. The sword's guard looked like an empty triangle made of silver feathers, and the grip was white gold. The length of the blade was a background of black with pinprick stars, with a small silver and brass jingle bells running down it, joined by a bolt of yellow lightning. At the end, jutting up like the star on Trixie Lulamoon's own Keyblade, was a domed brass bell with a silver bolt of lightning on it. Dangling off a chain from the bottom of the guard hung a diamond-shaped piece of obsidian with a yellow lightning bolt dashing out the front. "I'm a wielder, too," Ray continued, pouting and looking down at the weapon lying on the floor, "but Sora still treats me like a little kid." She laid down flat on her chest, propping her head up with her forelegs. "I'm the one who knows who the Guardians are when I see them. I knew that you and Twilight were them when I saw you. I know that's important enough of a reason for me to be with my big brother, but I'm a Keyblade wielder, too. He doesn't need to carry the weight of all the worlds on just his and Kairi and Riku's shoulders." Trixie calmly placed Flare back down upon the bed, while quietly levitating another hay fry to her mouth. She chewed it thoughtfully, watching the banana-maned filly bat the hilt of Thunderbell this way and that with her hooves. Seems a rather odd way to use a Keyblade.
She's just playing with it.
Yeah, I know, but still. But you'd think that you'd treat a weapon, as valuable as the Keyblade with a bit more, respect.
She's 10! Or 11.
You're not sure yourself?
I know, well, she's turning 9 in Annals of Darkness, she is the character that I've transported from Annals of Darkness, but she's not the same Ray. A tiny little bit has changed about her. So I do believe she is 10 in this, or she's 11. I know I explained it in an author's note back a little bit, but at the moment she's either 10 or 11.
Okay, let's see. She swallowed. "You know," Trixie began, raising her head and now grasping for another spoonful of her soup with her magic, "I never had the burden of looking after siblings while I was growing up. Such a troublesome thing, it appears, having to watch over their shoulders day after day, dealing with bullies, being some pony to talk to about their problems, helping them to discover their special talents and be right there with them to celebrate on the day they get their cutie marks. Although," she sipped her soup slowly, agonizingly, italics annoy me sometimes. I sometimes mistake certain letters for other letters.
Oh.
Slowly, agonizingly slowly to the filly that was listening to her. I imagine that knowing that they were safe and happy, and doing fun things together, would have been enjoyable, had my parents had the luxury of being more fortunate. If anything, your brother merely appears to be trying to protect his baby sister from the dangerous things that seek out the Keyblade and its bearers. If my understanding of its relation to the Heartless is correct, it is hardly something to be upset about. Trixie paused for a moment, and peered quizzically at Ray as a thought struck her. Why do you do that, anyway? Do what? Ray asked. Earlier you were calling your brother Oni-chan, or Sora-ni-chan, and while I now understand that what that means, now you are simply referring to him by his name alone. What's the reason behind the change? Ray answered with a knowing giggle. Oh, I only call him that when he's around because it bugs him. Ray is so much like an actual, sibling.
Yep.
You did a really good job with that.
Ray's an interesting character, and I just find that she gets a whole lot of flack for no reason. Like, the instant she showed up, about 80% of the people who were reading were automatically against her. It's like, who the heck is she? What is she doing here? She's not canon. Where did she come from? Why do you have an OC sibling to Sora? And it was like, oh my god, guys, give her a chance.
When she popped up, I have to admit I was a bit confused, but as I read, I really started to like her.
I'm glad.
I didn't just, write her off as, she shouldn't be here. I just, thought, who is this? And, I like the way that she's portrayed. She's just such a fun little character.
She is. Partially, the reason why I included Ray in this was, one, I needed somebody to be with them who would know who the Guardians were, and another one was I kind of have plans for in the Annals of Darkness continuity series when Sora actually has Ray as his apprentice for them to go on adventures, when Ray is a bit more around the age that she is in this, around 10 to 12 or so. So I wanted to gain experience writing Ray, so I needed to find a way to do that, and this was one way.
And you're doing really good with it.
Yeah, and then I also needed, okay, so I want to put Ray in this. What is she supposed to be doing that makes her relevant to the plot so she's not thrown in there for the sake of being thrown in there?
Like most OCs are.
Yeah, which is somewhat annoying.
But yeah, something that, when I first saw this, I kind of, wanted to avoid reading it, but at the same time the concept interested me, because, before this, I had never read a good crossover fic, a crossover fic that, mixed two franchises, one with MLP, and actually made it good.
I have been told before, when I started and when I posted the prologue and everything, that people were like, well, I hope this one's good. I have never seen a good Kingdom Hearts My Little Pony fanfic on this site. And one person was like, please tell me this is another Heartless show up, Heartless appear in Equestria, Sora and the gang arrives to save everything, Equestria saved, they go home happy, end of story. And I'm kind of like, you guys, oh right, you guys don't know me. You guys don't know me. Well, I do things a bit differently. I make things epic.
Good, because, that's the way pretty much every crossover fic goes. Something happens, characters from one franchise end up in Equestria, something relating to that franchise happens, they stop it, they go back, everything is happy.
Yeah, this is, no, I have forcibly included Twilight and Trixie as main characters of a Kingdom Hearts plot. They just happen to be starting in the middle of an adventure in Equestria. That's how this story starts.
Mm-hmm. I like how, they didn't show up and then the Heartless started appearing. Did I just hear Navi?
Yes, you heard Navi. That was my cell phone telling me I have a new email. Navi goes, hey, listen, hey, listen, hey, listen. Every time I get a new email.
I have to say that's possibly one of the best things you could have for your email ever, because you're not going to ignore that.
Nope. It's also the worst thing, because you're not going to ignore it. It's like, oh, I've got a new email. Damn it, I've got another new email. Damn it, Navi, shut up.
It's like
sometimes.
how, have you ever heard that fan recording, like, for Derpy, where they, like, the instant Derpy thing where someone says, I brought you a letter?
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
I have that for my Skype message thing. So every time I get a message in Skype just yells, I brought you a letter.
Right.
And it can get really annoying when I'm being spammed, because I'll have it, like, playing 10 times at once.
Let's see, the one time that Navi really, really, really annoyed me as my, actually, there are a couple of times, but one time most recently that Navi really annoyed me was when the Brony Canada group kept changing the name of the group, like, every 30 seconds, every minute even, and it was like, change the name of the group name has changed, and I'm like, I posted, can we stop changing the frickin' name? My email notification sound is Navi going, hey, listen, and it's driving me up the wall. the other time that Navi really, really annoyed me was I was stealthing in Skyrim. Don't think I need to say any more.
Damn. Just like she started going off as you were doing that.
Yeah, I was stealthing in Skyrim, and then BAM! And like my phone was on my chest, and it also vibrated, so it was like, hey, listen, vibrate on chest. And I'm like, oh shit, and I jerk, and then I'm spotted and I'm detected, and I'm like, Anyway, okay. Brett, Trixie snorted with a small smile of amusement.
Trixie snorted with a small smile of amusement. She ate another spoonful of her soup, and then felt out the innermost innate material signature of the knife in the jam jar, and grasped it firmly with her honed inborn abilities. Her horn's violet glow still persisted as it enveloped the butter knife, and controlling it to scoop up a moderate amount of strawberry jam and spread it upon a slice of the bread she'd been brought was a trifle of a task. I have to say, that's possibly the most interesting I've ever heard making a sandwich sound.
Magic is magic.
But still, the fact that you were able to write about
she's putting strawberry jam on bread, and it takes a paragraph to describe her putting strawberry jam on bread,
and it doesn't get boring. Regardless of how menial her use of magic was, the young filly in front of her had been unable to keep her eyes off any of the objects she'd been levitating in her horn's magical glow. Trixie chuckled inwardly. Ray's interest in the magical arts was easy to recognize. Most young unicorns were always interested in magic, and in discovering just how much they had the potential to wield and control. She focused her mind again, drawing upon the stores of arcane power deep within her that she had learned how to feel for and access. Her horn glowed, and Trixie theatrically waved her hooves in the air in front of her as the glow began to encompass an area of space between her and the foal. Exteriorly, she exhibited a state of calm confidence, while on the inside Trixie felt nothing but studious concentration. Conjuration tricks were a difficult school of magic to perform for any unicorn, creating things out of nothing but the energy of art. Each particle had to be created perfectly, and then linked to one another within a tiny pocket dimension first created in the space where the conjured object is supposed to appear, without fault, in a delicate process that required extreme amounts of concentration. Even for one as practiced in conjuring small objects as Trixie was, it still required over 95% of her focus. One careless mistake could send the entire object being created spiraling down into chaos, and lost before it could even pop into existence. The only difference between her and her other lesser unicorns was the speed at which Trixie was able to perform the task. Having performed this trick over 100 times before, Trixie knew all of its intricacies and where she had to be careful when linking. Cell creation and correctly mapping their locations is a difficult process after all. Strangely enough, she felt as though the task was coming to her much easier than it ever had before. Only 10 seconds after she had began, a process that would take any from half a minute to two for a less practiced or talented unicorn, Trixie was satisfied in her creation and pulled it out of the tiny pocket dimension she created. The white paper-wrapped bouquet of chrysanthemums, it's always been a hard word for me to say, but I think that's the case with a lot of people.
Chrysanthemum?
Orchids, yeah, chrysanthemum. Like, at least when you see it written. Orchids, and a pair of stargazer lilies appearing in the space of her horn's glow. Trixie properly collapsed the dimension she'd created to hold the bouquet as she was making it, seized the flowers in her magical grasp, and levitated them towards the filly with a proud smirk dancing on her face, caused wholly by the wide-eyed, open-mouthed expression of glee Ray had. Ray took the bouquet in her hooves and beamed up at Trixie. "Wow, not even my brother can do something like that with magic," she said. "He's never conjured up anything besides fireballs." This is probably going to sound extremely weird to Trixie considering Sora is a Pegasus.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying that for the audience because I've actually already read this chapter 3 times. Like, this is, like, the only fan fiction I've ever read, even before MLP, that I've actually gone back and read multiple times.
Really?
Yeah.
I go back and reread my chapters constantly, mostly because I just need to double-check something, check a description for a spell, or check whatever it was that they were given that they're now wearing or something. I do a lot of detail, so I end up having to go back and do a lot of detail fact-checking.
Trixie chuckled. It was nothing for the great and powerful Trixie, my little admirer. If time and your brother permits, Trixie is sure that you could receive lessons from the great and powerful Trixie. Though you could never be half as... Ray's word hit her, and she sweat dropped. "Did you say fireballs?" Ray nodded. "Uh-huh, and lightning and thunder and water and icicles bigger than your whole body, and huge gusts of wind. And he and Kyra even worked together to make a whirling lightning storm that rained fire. They both slept for a whole day afterwards, though, but it was amazing. That huge Nightwalker never stood a chance. But..." She giggled, and Trixie hoped that it wasn't at the look she knew was frozen onto her face. "He never actually made anything with his magic. So that still makes you amazing." But just the way that she describes all of it was, like, such excitement. Trixie quickly rearranged her facial features to hide her utter shock at the extent of the Pegasi's magical abilities and reveal nothing but grudging acceptance. "Well, the great and powerful Trixie does perform awesome feats of magic," she declared. But naturally, Trixie wouldn't dare attempt a feat so awe-inspiring that it could wreak havoc on a town such as a fairy tornado. The publicity would not be so beneficial on her career. They both stopped and looked at each other for another few seconds. Bleh. Ray holding onto the bouquet, and then laughed. Ray's laughter ceased suddenly, and she stood up on all 4 of her hooves. Trixie furrowed her brow in confusion. "What is it?" "They're here," the filly answered firmly. "I can feel them." Thunderbell became enveloped in a flash of light from where it lay on the ground and disappeared, reappearing in Ray's mouth a moment later. Seconds later, a half-dozen shadows rose up out of the tiles on the floor, not a trace of them having been present before. Shivers ran down Trixie's spine as she saw the Heartless for the second time, but for the first knowing exactly what they were and what they sought to do. Hers and Ray's very hearts were on the line, the creatures of inky black drawn to devour their hearts and turn the ponies into Heartless like themselves. Trixie couldn't deny to herself that she was afraid, with knowledge making her even more afraid this time than the last. But at the same time she recalled something else about the Heartless that Sora had imparted to her. Heartless fear the Keyblade. They are drawn to kill its wielders because we are dangerous to them. The Keyblade can defeat them like nothing else can. Pretty much a reiteration of what Squall told him at the beginning of the first game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not exactly.
Yeah, not exactly, but, he's paraphrasing.
Yeah. And I like that little reference. Trixie's eyes fell upon Flare as it rested on the bed atop the covers, and with fear being hedged by the desire of vengeance and the knowledge that her weapon could destroy them, Trixie twisted around and stood up on the bed. She grasped Flare with a levitation spell and declared, "Leave the fool alone! You seek to challenge the awesome magical might of the great and powerful Trixie, guardian of magic and Keyblade wielder? Show me your best, Heartless." "Trixie!" Ray exclaimed as the Heartless all jumped for the show pony. Ray's mouth and tongue flummoxed to make the appropriate sounds while they held onto her weapon. Trixie leapt off the bed, dodging the darting claws of the attacking Heartless, and simultaneously directed her Keyblade through the air. Flare plunged straight into the chest of one of the leaping shadows, and the Heartless burst apart in a cloud of dark smoke. A startled gasp of pain went out of Trixie's mouth as she landed, a sudden spike of pain shooting through her left foreleg. The muscle she'd strained before must still be a little weak. Blinking away the pain, Trixie moved Flare closer to her and the filly, eyeing the remaining Heartless on the bed and giving them a stubbornly brash smirk. "If you think that was all Trixie had in store for you, then you're very wrong," she announced, and then shuddered wordlessly as she slashed Flare across the bed with all the force her levitation spell could muster. Her Keyblade cut through all but one, with the remaining Heartless only escaping doom because it had melted into its own shadow on the sheets. Both unicorns watched it carefully as it wriggled seamlessly off the bed and onto the floor. Instead of heading straight for Trixie, as the Azure unicorn had hoped, instead went and stopped right next to Ray. Trixie readied Flare in the air above her as the shadow started to emerge from the floor, but Ray turned her back on the rising shadow and quickly gave it a hard buck with her back legs. The shadow stumbled backwards several steps on its flat feet, head wobbling and seeing stars, and was so completely unable to avoid Thunderbell's slice through its chest as Ray turned back around and gave her neck a hard jerk. That was a hard one to read all in one breath.
Yeah. I could tell.
Yeah. All was quiet for a few moments as the last wisps of the shadow faded away. Ray suddenly spat her Keyblade out of her mouth. "There's got to be a better way than that," she complained, Thunderbell vanishing in a shimmer of sparkles. "I've got almost no control using it in my mouth like that." She glanced behind her, and Thunderbell appeared in the grasp of the cord of muscle tissue at the center of her banana-yellow tail. Ray experimentally swung it a couple of times before sighing and dismissing her Keyblade. "No, that won't really do either." She looked at Trixie and cocked her head to her side. She pointed a hoof at Flare. "How can I do that?" One sec. For a moment, Trixie didn't know what the filly was talking about, and was about to point out that she didn't know until she realized that she was still holding Flare in the air by her horn's glow. She smiled knowingly at Ray, and laughed in her throat to herself. A pupil had presented herself before the great and powerful Trixie. I can't believe I screwed that line up that much. She wasn't the first, and certainly would not be the last fool to do so, but Ray would definitely go down in history as the first one that Trixie had accepted. And while we're at it, she can tell me more of her brothers and the Keyblade's powers. Her stomach rumbled suddenly. "Trixie will teach you how," she said, dismissing the Keyblade in a shower of white sparkles and raising her head with a superior air, "after she has finished her soup." Even the way she dismisses her Keyblade is theatrical.
Yep, that's Trixie for you.
I'd be lying if I said Trixie was one of my favorite characters, but you have to admire her.
Trixie's been one of my favorite characters, ever since I saw that episode. Well, not really ever since I saw that episode, but ever since I realized just how big of an impact she has on the brony community, and really just how awesome she has become in the artwork and in the fan fiction, and just in the Trixie versus Twilight stuff that's been going on, and just seeing all the artwork of Trixie, and you also realize that, yeah, she bragged and she lied a little bit, but she is a show pony. She is a show person. That's what they do. So it's not really she's not really a bad guy. Ponyville and Twilight and her friends are actually more of the villains in that episode, even though you wouldn't really know it, because they didn't come there to be entertained. They saw a liar and a braggart instead of a pony who was trying to entertain.
I never looked at it that way.
Yeah, so, Trixie is vain a little bit, and she is a bit
of a little bit.
She's vain, and she's a braggart, and she speaks in third person a lot, but she's still a good pony, really. And no one could have expected Snips and Snails to go into the Everfree Forest to get Nursa. Like, that's one thing that everyone says is no one could have expected them to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, like, what were they thinking?
Snips wasn't thinking, and Snails, well,
I don't think he does think.
He does. Like, it's just, Snails is Snails, and Snips is Snips. Snips is a little boy, and Snails is Snails. And they both have puppy dog tails.
Fun fact.
Snails and puppy dog tails. That's what little boys are made of.
Fun fact is Trixie was actually the first FIM pony that I actually ever saw.
Really?
Yeah. One of my friends had a spray of Trixie in Left 4 Dead, and we were playing a game, and he sprayed it on the wall, and I asked what it was about, and he explained it to me, and then about a week later I watched the first episode.
So he explained, this is the great and powerful Trixie.
That's actually exactly what he said. Pretty much in the same way. Yeah, like, basically Trixie is pretty much the reason that I am into the show. Well, I would have caught on to it in some way, shape, or form eventually. Like, because I have many friends who are bronies and were bronies longer than I was. Trixie just happened to be the first spray that I saw of the, like, other three bronies. Yeah, of the three people other than me who are in that, all of them are bronies, and Trixie just happened to be the first one that was sprayed up.
Oh, see,
followed by Applejack and then Rainbow Dash.
I actually started as a hater. Like, seriously, I started as a hater of FIM because I was me and my twin sister Vicky. We have an older sister, Christine, who is 7.5 years older than us. So we were both born in '90. She was born in '83. She watched '80s. She watched G1 My Little Pony, and we taped it onto our VCR cassette tapes and VHS tapes. So Vicky and I grew up watching G1 MOP. And we also watched some of the '90s G2 MLP when it was on TV. So,
my condolences.
It was fine. When you're a kid, it's fine. So we actually enjoyed G1 and G2 quite a bit. And then, G3 and 3.5 kind of came along. But by that point, we'd kind of lost the whole pony thing. And then I heard at university from one of my friends who started watching the show when it came out, FIM, when it came out. She said, there's new My Little Pony, and it's really awesome. And I kind of go, no way, I'm not watching this. She's like, why? Because G1 My Little Pony, or because '80s My Little Pony is best My Little Pony, and there's no other My Little Pony that beats it. And, like, she tried to convince me to watch the show, and what she did was she started showing me the first episode, but she made the mistake of showing me when they're in the Everfree Forest, and, the trees are all becoming all evil, and Pinkie Pie's laughing, and then she starts her song. And Twilight's like, tell me she's not, and then Rarity says, she is, and I'm kind of like, I'm right with you there, Purple Unicorn. I'm walking away now. So,
yeah.
So then I really didn't give the show much thought after that. I just kind of, stayed away. I didn't catch any of the memes that were going around. And then a buddy of mine posted in a Facebook group, Screw Attack Death Battle Starscream versus Rainbow Dash. So I'm like, what? A battle to the death between Starscream and a pony? I've got to watch this. So I watched it, and I was like, oh my god, Rainbow Dash is freaking awesome. I should probably start watching this show.
So you were one of the,
I started in
million people who came into the show from that.
Yeah, I started watching the show around a little bit before Sweet and Elite in second season. So in October of last year, I joined the herd.
I joined the herd.
Except the same guy who showed that is an absolute Trixie hater and doesn't understand why she is so beloved by the fandom, and now he likes the show, but he hates bronies. It's weird. But he says that he hates it because the only bronies he's ever met and dealt with are elitist pricks or something, and I'm like, then you've had a bad experience with the brony community, Nick. I'm very sorry. But all of the Edmonton bronies are really awesome.
I've seen that happen before.
Where
just
people start hating the community but love the show still?
The recording ran out. Okay, so yeah, people run into the wrong kind of bronies, just the kinds who just force the show on them, because unfortunately those kinds do exist.
Yeah, or the kind that write cupcakes.
Oh damn. I remember I used to be
I have not read Cupcakes, I have not read Rainbow Factory, and I don't intend to read them. I don't want my mind to be totally screwed, and I don't want to have the show ruined for me because I have read them.
I remember, I read, the first, line of Cupcakes, and I just decided, no, I know where this is going, I don't want to read any farther.
I read the first paragraph of Rainbow Factory, and I stopped.
And then, I'm playing Team Fortress 2, and I'm playing Spy, with the knife and everything.
Yeah.
And my friend, who I'm in the Skype call with, just starts reading Cupcakes. And I completely, my mind is not on Cupcakes, because, I'm kind of, busy focusing on stabbing people in the back with a knife.
Yeah, you're kind of focused on being the spy in TF2.
Mm-hmm. And so, I'm listening to the fic, but at the same time I'm not really. And just, it's not really that... I can say that it's not really that well written of a fic, just based on what I actually did catch and remember from it.
Whether it's well written or not, it's the fact that it's Pinkie Pie murdering Dash in the cake's basement. I was like, what? No, don't want to read this, go away.
Yeah, I think that, the fact that I was playing Spy, with the knife and brutally murdering people by stabbing them in the back, I think that kind of, made it not as bothersome.
Probably.
I actually think I still have the recording from that.
Well, you don't need it.
Actually, no, I emptied out my recording folder for Fraps a while ago. Anyways, let's actually keep reading this.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, just a second.
Yeah, I remember what part I'm at.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I think I would like to read Shining Armor's parts.
Okay, then. Riku burst out of the door of Twilight Sparkle's parents' house, his eyes already sweeping up and down the road. Considering the number of ponies running around screaming, he was surprised that there were as few Heartless as there were. A cursory glance told them that there were no more than 10 shadows and half as many soldiers clanking about. "Here I come," he muttered to himself, grinning at the prospects in front of him. Fighting Mortimer earlier that morning, only to get unexpectedly blasted into Equestria before he could flatten that pompous rodent's nose, had left a sour taste in his mouth. And taking out these Heartless would go a long way towards removing it. Racing past a yellow earth pony mare, Way to the Dawn appeared in Riku's mouth in a flash. He'd reached the first soldier Heartless almost before it could realize that a Keyblade wielder was upon it. Four hooves pounced down on its helmeted head, driving the Heartless prone to the ground, and Riku drove Way to the Dawn through its neck with a swing of his own. A pink crystalline heart emerged from the black cloud of smoke that the Heartless turned into, and bathed Riku's face in pink light as it slowly rose into the sky. The turquoise unicorn spun all around, tail flicking to slap against his flank, and chose his next target. Another soldier was clattering towards him from halfway across the street. Riku almost laughed, so eager did it seem to meet its death. He reared, neighing in challenge, and galloped for the soldier with head brought to bear and horn pointed. The soldier performed a small kick step and hurled towards the silvery-maned unicorn with iron-shod boot forward. I slipped up really badly right there. Riku felt his charge only slow slightly, and he grunted in satisfaction, even as his head pounded from the boot, connecting with his skull. Why am I suddenly reading so horribly?
I have no idea why.
I think I might be reading it.
Maybe because it's an action scene.
Yeah, I tend to do that in action scenes.
Because you're getting excited and you want to read faster, and your eyes are reading faster, and your mouth isn't going as fast as your eyes are.
Yeah, if previous chapters are any evidence of that, once action scenes come around, I tend to read faster. His horn had pierced right through the soldier's armored foot, and now the Heartless was squirming and struggling to get free. Riku could feel red claws scratching at him, trying to get him to release it. Riku was more than ready to oblige. The scratches were quite annoying, and the soldier's body was detracting from his view of Canterlot. I like that line.
He's so casual about this.
Yeah. Like, Riku just acts so Riku in this.
They're soldiers and they're shadows. They are run-of-the-mill base little tiny things. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll get rid of them. Ooh, you're annoying. Go away.
Yeah, like, Riku doesn't really, like, have too much of his personality, like, exposed, like, in the series. Like, considering, like, his only, like, appearances are, like, at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, at, like, for small little bits throughout Kingdom Hearts 1, and at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2.
Well, he's also had, he also had his own side thing in Castle Oblivion in Chain of Memories. There was Riku's story as he went up through Castle Oblivion, and then in this next game coming up right now,
I'm looking forward.
Already been released in Japan, but being released at the end of this month. It's Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, or Kingdom Hearts 3D for Nintendo 3DS. So that's already pre-ordered. That's going to take away my life as soon as it comes out. And then, of course, we have Kingdom Hearts 3. But, of course, I already spoiled the secret ending of Cage 3D for myself in Japanese because I absolutely had to spoil the ending for myself. But it was totally worth it. It was totally worth doing.
Like, I did that too, unfortunately. I tried to stop myself, but I just couldn't.
I held off for about 2 months, and then I watched it, and I went, yes!
I didn't actually watch it, but I read up on it on the wiki.
Oh, okay. I watched it, and it's like Riku's kind of like, why did you ask me to...
Don't spoil it for the people who haven't seen it.
I'm not going to, but it's totally awesome. Our greatest hopes have been realized. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, like, the thing is, I didn't actually, like, get to complete Chain of Memories because my cartridge broke.
Oh, what about Chain of Memories for PS2? Did you get that?
I don't even have a PS2.
Oh.
My friend has a PS2, and he has it, but I haven't spoken with him in like 2 years now.
Oh, okay. Anyway, back to the fic.
Yes.
Okay. But detracting from his view of Canterlot.
Yeah, I know. Riku tossed his head to the right, slinging the soldier off and into the air. He followed with another fling of his neck and a release of the keyblade in his mouth. Riku watched for 2 moments as Way to the Dawn whirled left and right in the air before catching up to the soldier, running it through the chest, and pinning the body to the wall of the house on the street's opposite side. Another second, and the soldier's struggling ceased as it succumbed to its wound and burst apart into wisps of darkness. Boost apart into... that doesn't work, no. and another heart rose up into the sky. This is you.
No, this is Twilight.
Oh, right, it is
Actually,
Twilight. Riku! He turned his head, seeing that Twilight, Sparkle, and Shining Armor had both emerged from their parents' house and into the street. It was mostly deserted of ponies now, although there were a few that had stopped in their escaping to watch him do his thing in awe. Ah, good, he said. You here to watch me take these guys out? He winked, and Twilight rolled her eyes. No, she answered patiently, like she was answering the painfully obvious questions of a child. This is my childhood home, and I want to help. Besides, Shining Armor needs to uphold his reputation as captain of the Royal Guards. Riku sidestepped as a shadow that had lunged at him. Not gonna say anything about that line. He smirked at Twilight's older brother. Yeah, wait, is this Shining Armor, or...
This is Riku.
Okay, I've wondered for a while about that. Yeah, we wouldn't want a captain to be upstaged by some pony who was a prisoner only hours ago. A blast of magenta light rocketed out of Shining Armor's horn and smothered the shadow completely. The guard captain looked up and gave Riku a superior look.
What was that about upstaging?
Riku raised an eyebrow, saying without words, Oh? He promptly turned back to the Heartless on the street. His horn charged with a black and dark navy blue light. He leveled it towards the remaining soldier. Dark Aura! A ball of black and dark blue fire emerged from his horn, twice the size of his head. Was Dark Aura really that big? I don't remember it being that big in the games.
Riku is now a pony, remember?
Good point, but still, like...
Yeah, Dark Aura was about the size of his head, pretty much. Dark Aura itself, when you were, when you played as Sora, and then, like, the reaction command came up for Riku to cast that spell, or to cast that, it was about twice the size of his head. It was a nicely sized fireball.
Because, like, I remember it being smaller during the fight with Xemnas where controlling him.
Yeah, when you're controlling him, it's not quite so big. But when you're controlling Sora, and when Sora and Riku are in their limit, it is a nicely sized fireball.
A ball of black and dark blue fire emerged from his horn, twice the size of his head, and roared through the air on a straight path for the soldier. It burst apart in a firework of dark flame as it struck, and all they could see of the soldier was its released heart, rising into the sky to join the other three. Only 2 soldiers were left, and they both hung back while the shadows melted into the ground and advanced in safety. Riku could see Shining Armor and Twilight looking at the space where the soldier he'd blasted used to be, in shock. But Shining Armor shook his head first, and gave Riku a look of respectful acknowledgement.
Alright, that was nice, but you still got a ways to go if you want to best the captain of the Palace Guard.
Ha! So you're not only a captain of the Royal Guards, but you're also the one who's in charge of the guards of Canterlot Castle, are you? Riku replied. He bowed with exaggerated politeness. Well then, after you, Captain Shining Armor. Shining Armor smiled and placed the tip of his hoof against the top of his chest, just shy of his neck.
Thank you, Riku.
Oh, wait, this is your line.
Thank you, Riku.
He said with all the measure of a true gentle colt. He eyed the shadows with supreme confidence, definitely not about to look weak in front of his little sister. His horn flared with magenta light. The shadows emerged from the ground, their claws at the ready to tear into him and Riku, when suddenly all of them became enveloped by the same magenta glow that was around Shining Armor's horn. Riku watched with amusement as all 9 of the shadows started bouncing around the street, their heads smashing into the pavement or each other. 2 of them, Shining Armor, even hurtled skyward so fast that Riku almost hurt his neck following their ascent. I can imagine that scene, and in my head it looks really funny.
Just like it to be funny. Just like
yeah,
it's like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna levitate all of these guys and have some fun because they're stuck in my grasp. It's like I can do whatever I want to while I'm levitating you. So I'm going to.
Just like bouncing them around by their face.
Yep. That's what I would still do. It's like I'm using the Force to lift you up and smash you back down, lift you up and smash you back down, lift you up and smash you back down. And I'm going to toss you into that building, then I'm going to toss you into that building, then I'm going to shoot you up so high that your neck will break.
Yeah, they just like you did this scene so well.
I typically tend to do my fight scenes really well.
Yeah, I noticed.
I've had 5 years of practice doing them, so I better be good at doing them by now.
If you weren't good at them by this point, you'd have to be like one of the worst writers in history.
Oh no,
but you're not.
I know that there are some people that have been writing some stuff a bit longer than I have, but their skill never really improved. So, like, they could be writing, like, there's one guy that I know that really pissed me off, in which, he kept claiming that he was writing as best as he could, but it just absolutely sucked. And he took me as a beta for a bit, and I tried to help him improve, and he really took all of my constructive criticism the wrong way, because he was really looking for someone to just blow smoke up his ass and say he was perfect and he was awesome, when I'm saying, it's like, no, this doesn't make sense, no, this doesn't make sense, no, this person can't do that, no, Rafiki can't create portals, he's a shaman, and where has it ever been evidenced he could make a portal? Why are you having Rafiki do this?
That actually sounds really, really stupid.
Like, no, Rafiki can't create portals, and B, how would he know how to create a portal to Disney Castle right at the moment that the heroes need him? Because for whatever reason, you can't have Sora and his group actually winning. You always have to have a freaking big damn heroes moment in which some new guy comes in and saves their butt, and of course it's somebody from Twilight, because you apparently really, really love that, when you could have just had this girl who runs with wolves be the girl from Princess Mononoke instead, and it would have totally worked, because Studio Ghibli is Disney. It wouldn't have had Twilight at all.
They included Twilight.
Yeah, he included Twilight, and he absolutely loved it, and I'm like, no, I will deal with this, but really, no. It was weird. And then he felt that I was being totally unfair to him, and that he had this disease, and he was really hiding behind it. But anyway, yeah, my fight scenes are awesome.
Yes, they are.
In the end, though.
Yeah. In the end, though, the unicorn dispatched the shadows he was levitating around. Riku had to admit that Shining Armor looked like he was having quite a bit of fun playing with the Heartless before vanquishing them. Shining Armor gave Riku a smile with a toss of his head, and Riku sat down and gave him a polite golf clap. He waved one hoof towards the two soldiers that had stood watching from the sidelines as their brethren were bounced and splattered to death. "You missed those two," Riku noted. Both soldiers vanished in streams of pink light. Riku and Shining Armor both blinked and looked at each other. The two stallions turned their heads. Twilight gave them both a somewhat sheepish smile. She pawed the ground with a hoof. "Well, I couldn't let you two take all the credit." Riku turned his head to look at Shining Armor. "You know, at first I had some reservations about your sister, but now I think she'll fit in with us just fine." And that's the end of the chapter.
After a very long and lengthy read, filtered through with a whole bunch of our asides and little mini side conversations.
And the half-an-hour break to discuss D&D.
Yes. Which, again, may or may not be appearing later on.
Hope you enjoyed. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, it was glad to be here. May the grace of the Valor protect all of you. And in case you don't know what that means, I'm a Tolkien nerd, so the Valar, I've had to explain this numerous times, the Valar are the gods of Middle-earth. Essentially, I am saying, God bless you, except in Tolkien form.
Ah. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I've had to explain it like 24 times to people on fanfiction.net over the past 5 years asking me, what does this mean? Who are the Valar? What's going on? And I'm kind of like, okay guys, read the Silmarillion, please. I'm done with explaining it all to you.
And now we know.
Yes, now you all know what it means.
Well, see you all next chapter after he actually makes it.
Well, I'm most of the way. I think I'm most of the way through it, so it should be done hopefully by Monday evening. Like I noticed after you told me that you were doing these readings that I really should try and keep the chapters under a 10,000 word length, which is what I'm totally used to posting on fanfiction.net with 20-page chapters. So I realized after you said, I've been putting this one off for a while. You want to know why? Yeah. It's 13,000 words long. I'm like, oh, well, now that I have somebody doing audio readings of these, maybe I should keep the chapters shorter so that they're not such of a hassle to them.
You don't have to, shorten the chapters specifically for me, but just,
cut back to the insane amounts of filler that I tend to use. You have to admit that a good deal of that second chapter was filler between Sora, Riku, and Kairi and Jiminy just talking in the jail cell.
Yeah, good filler, but still filler.
Good filler, but I tend to do that a lot when it comes to those three. You may have noticed that when actually that's the only scene in which all three of them are by themselves so far, including Rich. So 4 of them are by themselves so far. I've been writing that group for 5 years now. I am very comfortable when it comes to writing them, and I can just let it go, and they will write, and they will talk, and they will do whatever it is while they are together in a scene for God knows how many pages before we actually get back to the plot. And I have had some people go and say, you have not quite filler chapters that you post because you have a whole lot of filler in it, but it's also got plot elements to it that keeps the story going and keeps you interested. So you have a whole lot of chapters that aren't necessarily filler. They have plot elements, but they are a lot of filler. And I go, yeah, I do.
But at least it's well written.
Yeah, it is well written. I have gotten very many comments about how my stuff is well written over the past few years as I've improved. Because before it was the stuff that you would normally expect from a first-time writer, and now the
insane amount of backstory at the beginning of Chapter 2 of Annals of Darkness.
Chapter 2? No, talking about Chapter 2 at the very beginning where it was Home and Stories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was that same amount of backstory. That was something you would clearly expect someone who had first started writing to write to try and explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did it all again in my rewrite for that, the chapter itself was a bit longer, but it was a whole lot more coherent and concise. And there were breaks between them explaining everything like you would expect. This took quite a while, and they were getting hungry, so it was lunch. So, they decided to break for lunch, and then Sora and Kairi were sitting by themselves on beanbag chairs and kind of flirting with each other as they were left alone, while Riku went off wherever it was that he was. Then the dads went to go and grab food, while the mothers all hung out in the kitchen and chatted, and then Roxas and Nominee were talking to each other in their heads, and then Riku comes in when they get back with some food, and he's like, oh, well, this is interesting. Have you guys finally decided that you're a couple now? And they're kind of like, no, not yet. See, where was that? The beginning volume. There it is. Because I also have my fanfiction.net thing opened up. Return to the Islands, Home and Stories. That's what I titled the second time. Where was Oh yeah, their lunch was. Oh no, that was their lunch was devoured. So I can't recall where they actually got to the lunch bit, because I know it was in here. Whatever.
It's not really important. It's a completely unrelated thing. Well, not completely unrelated, but
it's completely unrelated. It totally is completely unrelated because I know that you mentioned it before in several of your other readings with Annals of Darkness plugs. Annals of Darkness, in case anyone is still listening to this recording, Or in case the recording's still going on, I don't even know if...
Yeah, it's still going.
Okay, in case
It's
anyone is
still
still listening to this recording, Annals of Darkness is in a completely separate Kingdom Hearts continuity. Like, they start their adventure in that one right after school begins, pretty much. And within like 2 months, within like 3 months, so September towards December, pretty much, Maleficent has opened up Kingdom Hearts, and she has an army of like 2.5 million Heartless at her command, and they've gone to a whole bunch of different worlds, and they're raising an army to try and fight back against her. So it's like a huge freaking war setting. And I mentioned earlier about just give everybody a Keyblade. Well, in that story, I'm getting to the point where they need more Keyblade wielders, because they don't have enough. Because there's 2.5 million Heartless, and they've only got Sora, Kairi, Riku, King Mickey. Yuffie has gotten a Keyblade in that one, and it becomes Riku's girlfriend. Spoiler alert. And they also have Asterix from the Asterix comic book series. He was a previous wielder from a past Keyblade war, and he survived. So they have those 6, and then they also have Roxas and Naminé, who got bodies of their own. So really they have those 8. And those 8 aren't enough.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so totally different continuity, as you can see. In this one, over a year has passed. Nothing really big has gone down until just recently. And they're looking for these things called Guardians of Magic, which have no place at all in Annals of Darkness. So, totally different continuities. You may see some references to some things that I have used in Annals of Darkness, like when Kairi started to, in Chapter 4, Murphy's Law, when Kairi started to say, where was that? Shadowdale, Pegasus, we can't use magic, fire. When she started to go, sing now the hymn of the phoenix, the eternal fires of heaven, and ow! Sora, what was that for? She was starting a chant for a certain type of spell that she has in Annals of Darkness called Flame Styles. And this chant that she had started was her particular favorite, called Skyfire, in which you will see what Skyfire does. Let me just put it that way. You will see Skyfire because it's in this.
After they actually leave Equestria, of course.
All unless Kairi is able to figure out that she can channel magic through the Keyblade because it is a magical weapon. If she's able to figure this out, that she can still use magic, but by channeling it through her weapon instead of through a horn that a unicorn has. Because all unicorns perform magic through their horns, so I see it as like it's a channel. It's a focus that they use to actually do magic. Pegasi just do their own little brand of magic by touch to clouds, and Earth Ponies just kind of do it. They don't have any control over it. They just do it. So if Kairi and Sora are able to figure out that they can still use the Keyblade to channel magic, well, you're gonna see some awesome shit in Equestria. If not, you're going to see some awesome stuff after they leave Equestria. Such as when Kairi is training Trixie. That's going to be totally awesome. Yes, I just said it. Kairi will be training Trixie.
Makes sense.
Have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z Abridged?
Yeah, I've seen most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how Piccolo trains Gohan?
Yeah.
Dodge!
Yeah.
That's Kairi and Trixie right there. Dodge! What? Defend yourself! What? Magic barrage, Keyblade attack. What? Why are you doing this? I just learned how to move in this body. Nope. You need to be better.
Well, this has been going on for about 11 minutes longer than it needed to.
And our
considering
Skype has been for 2 hours. So
yeah,
we need to get this edited and loaded up onto YouTube, and I need to get more written for Chapter 7.
So, yeah?
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed.
Peace out.
See you all next time.
Perhaps I'll see you again.
Maybe.
That's why I said perhaps.
Yes.